My name is Bob, and I worked at Area 51. Yes, the famous secret base where, according to rumors, they keep aliens and flying saucers. My job was to brew coffee for all the staff. Well, not just coffee. Of course, I also occasionally swept the floor and handed out sandwiches. In general, nothing special. But one day, everything changed. It was an ordinary morning. As usual, I came to work, poured myself a cup of strong coffee, and set off on my usual route, from the lab to the canteen. Suddenly, a strange glowing portal appeared before me. Out of it came a real alien. You should have seen him. He was green with big eyes and wearing unicorn pajamas. Yes, you heard right, unicorn pajamas. The alien looked at me and said, "Hello, Bob. Do you know where I can find the best coffee around here?" I was so stunned that I just nodded and led him to our coffee maker. At this time, all my colleagues just froze in place, not knowing what to do. But the alien turned out to be very friendly. He poured himself a cup of coffee, took a big sip, and said, bean nectar. This is wonderful." Then he introduced himself as Zogler, ambassador of the Intergalactic Coffee Union. It turned out that on his home planet, coffee had become scarce, and they were looking for new sources. But the funniest part was yet to come. Zogler pulled a small device out of his pocket and began showing me his family photos. "This is my grandfather Zog. He was a great scientist. And this is my grandmother Lar. She makes the best muffins in the entire galaxy," he said, showing me pictures of aliens in various funny poses. But then our boss, Colonel Smith, entered the room. He looked at Zogler and shouted loudly, "What's going on here?" Zogler, undisturbed, handed him a cup of coffee and said, "Try it. It's the best coffee on Earth." The colonel, blinking in surprise, took the cup and took a sip. His face immediately changed. He smiled and said, "Not bad, not bad. And who are you?" After this, real chaos began. Zoglar decided that since he was already on Earth, he needed to try all the local delicacies. He demanded to be served pizza, burgers, and even sushi. The entire staff of Area 51 was running around trying to please the alien guest. But the funniest part began when Zogler decided to take a tour of the base. He walked through the laboratories, sticking his green fingers into all the devices and telling stories about his intergalactic adventures. At some point, he decided to throw a party and invited all his friends from different corners of the universe. As a result, the base was filled with all kinds of creatures. There were blue-skinned humanoids, talking plants, and even giant flying ants. The party lasted all night. The aliens danced to the music they had brought with them, ate Earth sweets, and even played a few games of chess. Colonel Smith, forgetting all his duties, danced with them, dressed in a strange costume that Zogler had given him. The next morning, the base looked like it had been hit by a hurricane. There were candy wrappers, empty cups, and alien souvenirs everywhere. The aliens thanked us for our hospitality, and gathering their things, returned to their worlds through the same glowing portal. But the story didn't end there. It turned out that Zoglar was not the only representative of the Intergalactic Coffee Union. A few days after his visit to Area 51, a new guest arrived. This time it was another alien, this one blue, with antennae on his head and dressed in clothing resembling an ancient Roman toga. He introduced himself as Vulcanar, an inspector from the Intergalactic Coffee Commission. Vulcanar said that he had come to check the quality of coffee on Earth and make sure that Zoglar had not been mistaken in his assessments. Naturally, we again prepared the best coffee we could brew for him. Vulcanar took a sip, thoughtfully shook his head and said, "Not bad, but the aroma needs some work." Then Vulcanar pulled out a set of strange tools from his cosmic backpack and began conducting various experiments with our coffee. He added some green powders, dripped unknown liquids, and even used a device resembling a miniature telescope to study each grain. Watching this was quite amusing. Colleagues who had previously been skeptical of Zogler now gathered around Vulcanar, discussing his methods. Colonel Smith even began taking notes, apparently planning to implement some of these technologies in his projects. Having finished his experiments, Vulcanar announced that Earth had successfully passed the coffee quality check, and that our planet was now officially included in the Intergalactic Coffee Union. We all received special certificates confirming our status, and even small badges with the Union's emblem. But the adventures didn't stop there. Soon after Vulcanar's visit, the Area 51 base began attracting more and more alien guests. they arrived on their spacecraft, each time surprising us with their strange appearances and habits. One of the most memorable guests was an alien named Grok. He resembled a giant talking snail covered in rainbow slime. Grok was a representative of the Intergalactic Tea Ceremony Union and said he had come to Earth to exchange experiences with our tea masters. At first, the idea that we had tea masters puzzled everyone, but Grok, ignoring this, organized a real tea ceremony in one of our hangars. He laid out a long carpet, set up numerous strange teapots and cups on it, and began his performance. Grok brewed tea using his antennae, made various magical gestures, and pronounced incantations in his native language. The tea he prepared had an incredibly rich taste and aroma, and its color changed from green to purple depending on the angle of the light. We were all delighted, and even Colonel Smith, who was usually strict and serious, couldn't help but smile. After the ceremony, Grok offered us to try our hand at brewing tea. He taught us his methods, and honestly, it was one of the most fun activities I had ever participated in. We all laughed, trying to repeat Grok's movements, and sometimes we even managed to make pretty good tea. Soon, Area 51 turned into a real cosmic resort. Aliens came here to relax, communicate with people, and exchange experiences. We organized many cultural events where Earthlings and aliens shared their traditions and arts. One of the most unusual events was the Intergalactic Talent Show. Each alien could showcase their skill, and believe me, it was something incredible. One of the participants, an alien named Tars, was a master of playing an invisible harp. When he played, glowing notes appeared around him, dancing in the air and creating beautiful melodies. Another alien, Xena, was an artist who painted using her tentacles. She created paintings that changed their shapes and colors, depending on the mood of the viewers. It was so mesmerizing that people couldn't take their eyes off her works. But the most memorable performance was a show by the circus troupe of aliens who called themselves the Galactic Acrobats. They demonstrated tricks that defied all laws of physics. One of the acrobats, for example, could walk on the ceiling. Another turned into a giant ball and rolled around the stage, and a third could stretch his body like rubber and take on any shape. The audience, which included both Earthlings and aliens, gave a standing ovation. Colonel Smith, who usually showed no emotions, sat with his mouth open, amazed by what was happening on stage. The intergalactic guests not only entertained, but also contributed to scientific research. Many of them were scientists and engineers, and they happily shared their knowledge with our specialists. We learned about new energy sources, ways to cure diseases, and even the possibilities of interstellar travel. One of the most important discoveries was the invention of a device that allowed real-time translation of any language. This greatly simplified communication between Earthlings and aliens, and soon we could freely talk to each other without a language barrier. Area 51 became a true center of intergalactic cooperation and friendship. We held joint conferences, exchanged ideas, and worked together on projects that could benefit all inhabitants of our galaxy. But the most significant achievement was that we learned to appreciate diversity and find common ground despite all the differences. We realized that regardless of our skin color or the number of legs we have, we all share common dreams and aspirations. Over time, relationships between humans and aliens became even closer. Some of them even began living on Earth, hiding their true nature. They used disguise technology to look like ordinary people and lived among us, leading double lives. These aliens worked in various fields, from science to art, and their influence became increasingly noticeable. However, there were also more extravagant aspects of our cooperation. Aliens studying human culture discovered that people experience a wide range of emotions and feelings, including love and passion. This intrigued them, and they began conducting their own experiments in the field of interspecies relationships. As a result of these experiments, some aliens entered into intimate relationships with humans. These connections were highly unusual and often raised many questions. However, those who participated in such relationships claimed it was an amazing experience that helped them better understand themselves and the world around them. Of course, all these events remained strictly confidential. Any information leak could cause panic and distrust among the population. The government and the management of Area 51 did everything possible to keep these secrets, using the most advanced surveillance and control methods. But despite all the precautions, rumors still began to spread. Some employees of Area 51, tired of constant pressure and secrecy, started sharing their stories with close friends and family. These stories quickly spread, and soon articles and books began to appear about aliens living on Earth. However, the government successfully debunked all these rumors, claiming that they were merely fabrications and conspiracy theories. But those who knew the truth continued their work, believing that one day humanity would be ready for such a revelation. One of those employees was my colleague Jim. Jim had worked at Area 51 for many years and had witnessed many amazing events. He was an engineer specializing in developing new technologies. Jim became one of the first to collaborate with aliens on a scientific basis. His relationships with the aliens grew into genuine friendships. One of the aliens, named Larek, became a close friend. Larek was a scientist from the planet Zentar and possessed incredible knowledge in quantum physics. Together, they worked on projects that could change our understanding of the universe. One day, Larek invited Jim to his home planet to show him how his people lived. Jim agreed, and a few days later, they set off on Larek's spaceship. The planet Zentar turned out to be an amazing place, where high technology harmoniously blended with nature. On Zentar, Jim met many aliens, and his knowledge and experience proved valuable to them. He saw how their scientific laboratories operated, how they grew food, and treated diseases. Jim was impressed by the level of development in their society and learned much from his new friends. However, the most unexpected was that Jim started a romantic relationship with an alien named Alara. Alara was a doctor and a specialist in biomedicine. She helped Jim adapt to life on Zentar and introduced him to her family. Their relationship developed rapidly, and soon Jim realized that he had found his soulmate in Alara. When they returned to Earth, Jim and Alara continued their relationship. Alara took on a human form to avoid attracting attention, and they lived together, hiding their love from those around them. Jim told me about this, and I was happy for him, though I understood that such relationships could cause many problems. Soon, Jim and Alara began working on a joint project that could combine the achievements of Earth and Zentar's medicine. Their goal was to create a drug that could cure the most severe diseases and extend human life. They worked day and night, making incredible discoveries. But despite all the achievements, they still had to hide their work and relationship. The government monitored their every step, and any deviations from the norms could lead to severe consequences. Jim and Alara lived under constant pressure, but their love and desire to help humanity gave them strength. Meanwhile, experiments on human-alien interaction continued at Area 51. Special programs were developed to study the behavior of aliens and their impact on humans. These programs included various tests and experiments, which sometimes looked quite strange. One of these experiments aimed to study the psychological influence of aliens on humans. Groups of volunteers spent time with the aliens, communicated with them, and shared their impressions. These studies showed that aliens have a unique ability to evoke a sense of calm and harmony in humans. However, there were also more controversial experiments. Some scientists wanted to determine how interaction with aliens affects human physiology. To do this, they conducted tests that included physical contact between humans and aliens. The results of these tests were ambiguous, but showed that aliens could have a positive impact on human health. Against this backdrop, more and more aliens began to show interest in human relationships and emotions. They studied human behavior, traditions, and customs. Many of them found it extremely fascinating and even tried to emulate humans in everyday life. One such alien was Zikar, who worked with us in the laboratory. Zikar was very curious and constantly asked questions about human culture. He was interested in music, art, and especially romantic relationships. Zikar often observed humans and tried to understand what made them happy. One day, Zikar decided to try himself as a romantic partner and started dating one of our employees named Sarah. Sarah was a biologist and a bit shy, but Zikar managed to win her over with his charm and sincerity. Their relationship raised many questions and debates among the staff. Some believed that such connections could be dangerous, while others supported them, claiming that love knows no boundaries. Sarah and Zikar continued dating despite all obstacles, and their relationship grew stronger. Zikar even began studying human literature and writing love poems for Sarah. He spent much time with her, discussing various topics and sharing his thoughts. Sarah was happy and said she had never felt so close to anyone. But soon, their relationship started attracting government attention. Special investigations were conducted to determine how safe such connections were and whether they violated any laws. Sarah and Zakar had to undergo many tests and interviews to prove that their love was genuine and posed no threat. Eventually, the government decided to allow them to continue their relationship, but with several conditions. Sarah and Zakar had to regularly report on their lives and work and participate in scientific research that could help better understand interspecies relationships. Thus, Area 51 became not only a center of scientific research, but also a place where unique and unusual relationships between humans and aliens developed. These connections opened new possibilities for studying psychology and physiology and helped strengthen intergalactic ties. Of course, all this remained strictly confidential. Any information leak could cause panic and distrust among the population. The government and the management of Area 51 did everything possible to keep these secrets, using the most advanced surveillance and control methods. But despite all the precautions, rumors still began to spread. Some employees of Area 51, tired of constant pressure and secrecy, started sharing their stories with close friends and family. These stories quickly spread, and soon articles and books began to appear about aliens living on Earth. However, the government successfully debunked all these rumors, claiming that they were merely fabrications and conspiracy theories. But those who knew the truth continued their work, believing that one day humanity would be ready for such a revelation. Over time, interaction with aliens became an integral part of our lives. We learned to cooperate and live together despite all the differences. And although many aspects of these relationships remain classified, they continue to influence our world, opening new opportunities and perspectives for us. So if you ever hear that there is nothing interesting at Area 51, don't believe it. There will always be a place for incredible adventures and discoveries that can change your life and show that we are all part of one big and amazing world.